back to Emily Reads Books. If you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Emily. If you are returning, welcome back. Today, we are doing a tag video, but this time I was actually tagged to do it. I know, what a breath of fresh air for me to actually be tagged to produce a tag. If you are not already subscribed to Hugo Reads, he is the most wonderful friend of mine who tagged me to do this video, and go subscribe to Hugo right now. So I will be doing the 50 questions rapid fire tag. I'm gonna do this, hopefully rapid fire. I'm actually a little bit nervous because I feel like this is gonna take a while for me to think of some of these answers, but I'm gonna try and do it, and we're gonna do 50 questions. It's gonna be great. Let's do it. I think that hardcovers are prettier, but I prefer reading using paperback because it's easier to hold in my hand and they're not as heavy. Off when I'm reading, on when it's on my shelf. Secondhand if it's in good condition. I almost always buy secondhand. I don't really own too many new books unless they are gifts or I, for some reason, have the money to spend on it. But yeah, I almost always secondhand. Also, like, I can't afford new books. If you can afford new books, good for you, but I cannot. Yes, of course, audiobooks. I have trouble listening to them sometimes because it takes a very specific voice for me to be able to listen to it for long periods of time, but I have no issue with audiobooks. I think they're great. And also, they make reading accessible. If you have issues with reading, it makes those stories accessible, and I think that's really important. I don't know what cover buying is. Is that like when you buy based off the cover? Because then yes. All the time. Good book with a bad cover. Okay, I gotta think, hold on. Secondhand charm, because, okay, now don't get me wrong, this book is not like phenomenal by any means, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought I wasn't going to because this cover looks really immature, and I would say that this book really doesn't read nearly as immature as the cover would make you think it looks. I think that this just looks, cheap is the wrong word. Do you know what I'm saying? But the book itself I actually did enjoy. I liked the story, I thought it was interesting, it was not what I expected it to be, and yeah, like, I like the side, I like the font, I like the color scheme here, I love the way that the colors look together, but like, the look of it is not for me. Now, the Hazelwood, I just thought was boring and kind of dragged out, and honestly, like, there's nothing wrong with this book, and if you love this book, good for you. I kind of want to reread it to make sure that, like, I'm in the right mind about this book. Anyway, I love this cover. This is one of my favorite book covers of all time. This was a cover buy, if that's what that term indeed means. I bought this book strictly based on this cover. I don't remember. Can I say Dr. Seuss? One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish? Cat in the Hat, anyone? Green Eggs and Ham? We also read the Berenstain Bears a lot in my house. Also the whole stain thing. It's with an E. It's always been with an E. Okay, I actually had to go to my Goodreads for this question because I was like, what? I'm not proud of this. Okay, like, I'm just putting this out there. This was the last book I read. Redeemed from the House of Night. Now, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you might remember that, like, I started reading the House of Night series when I was in, like, 6th grade, and I, like, literally was obsessed with it. Now, rereading it, there are a lot of issues with it, and they're planning on turning it into a TV series, and there are some issues here. We're not going to address them in this video, but I had been missing the last 2 books, and it's quite literally been a decade, and I just needed to finish it on principle, and I found them at the bookstore. They came in, it was gonna cost me like $5 for both of them, and I read them in 48 hours, and I was as disappointed as I thought I was going to be. They were not good. So, that was my first read of 2021. That would also be the same series. Yeah, it's like $12. How embarrassing. Anyway, so So I found these 2 books on clearance the last time I was at work, and it is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I paid 50 cents for, and this one, which sounded interesting, and Then You Were Gone, which I'd never heard of before. It's supposed to be a thriller, sounded really interesting, and this one was $1. So those are the last 2 books I bought. So this is actually probably, okay, so I'm torn right now because I don't know. At this moment in my mind, which this fluctuates daily, but today it really feels like my favorite genre, or the one that I'm reading the most or enjoying the most right now, is either like that line between like young adult and new adult, you know what I'm talking about, and like those contemporary fiction, so like general fiction. I don't know. And then fantasy, because I always have loved fantasy, and like I still read a lot of fantasy, so I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship right now with fantasy. I need the new Sanderson books. I would say probably nonfiction, unless it's something that really interests me. It's not one that I normally go for unless it's about a topic that I am interested in, or a person's life that I'm really interested in, or historical romance, though my thought on this is changing as I have experienced Bridgerton, and now I'm like, I might consider it. I'm still not really into smut or anything, but if it's a good story, I might delve in. Yes, I do. I suppose if by popular science, like, do you mean like nonfiction? Because yes, I do. I don't go out of my way to read it, but like I don't not read it. Yes, I read and still sometimes read a lot of middle grade. Yes. No, but my beautiful friend Rachel bought me a 3-month subscription for my graduation/birthday gift in 2020, and it was amazing. And if I had the money to do it, I would do it, but I don't. Favorite bookish item? I don't really know what that means. Like a bookmark? Does this count? It has little drawers in it. Does this count? Can someone tell me what that question actually meant? So I have a few, because I'm reading a few books right now, but I got this when I went to Disney World, and I got to be Mrs. Potts in Belle's Enchanted Tales, and they gave this to me, and it says that I'll always be part of Belle's favorite story. So there's that. I also use a lot of post-it notes, so. And I also have like a bunch of these that look like old like postcards. I have like 100 of them. If the book is big enough, I'll use this one, which I got as a gift. I think that's it. I don't know, I have a million bookmarks. They're just kind of everywhere. Probably a leaf or like an unused tissue. And it was only supposed to be temporary, but it just, sometimes life gets in the way. Also, I've used like playing cards and stuff like that. Yeah, like literally anything that's close enough that will fit in my book. Is this different than a dust jacket? Then I suppose I have to say no, because I'm not really sure what it is. Is that like something to like protect your book? Because I'm totally down for that, I just don't have any. Also, where do I get one? Next question. I don't know. Ugh. Mina Harker and Jonathan Harker from Dracula. That's the one coming to mind. Or I guess maybe Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet, you know, the classics. Or Vin and Ellen. I've been asked this question a million times and I still don't have an answer. Maybe I'll say Voldemort this time, because he's kind of a showman and like the drama just ensues whenever he's around. I kind of love that about him. Actually probably The Adventure in Way of Kings, like Kaladin's whole like story arc. I really, really loved that. I would say like in terms of adventure, that's probably one of the more adventurous ones I've read recently. I loved it. So I love me a good standalone, because I love when a book is like, we start here, we end here, here's your story, it's wrapped in a little bow, it's in one book, you know, I love that. Trilogies are great if it's a story that can't fit into one book. I prefer trilogies over duologies, because I feel like there's, you know, a nice beginning, middle, end. I think that's always really important. It's kind of the same deal with like the beginning, middle, end in like a standalone, but instead it's just expanded over these 3 books. So I like that. Series, I think, can get a little long. Wouldn't know anything about that. But I mean, I think trilogies are great. I think standalones are great. I think series can just get too long, and I think eventually the arc has to end. Like, the characters can only go through so much, right? Like, eventually they have to die, or you know what I mean? Like, we have to get to the end. And I think, like, once you hit like 5 books, I think it's gone too far, and I lose interest, because I mean, okay, and then like I see books like Harry Potter, but I think the reason that Harry Potter can like sustain through 7 books is because of the age range that he goes through, right? Versus having like a series of 12 books that takes place over like 5 months. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference, and I think that is why Harry Potter can get away with having so many books. Also going from, you know, kind of like a middle grade book in Philosopher's Stone to a young adult verging on, you know, older adult in terms of content in the last book, I think makes a difference. So I hope that makes sense. So, and I also think it depends on the author. Like, I think Sanderson can get away with it because having so many books in his universe and like the story arc and everything with so many different and diverse characters. Also, he's not afraid to kill characters, like important characters. And I think that is also really important too. I don't know. I could do a whole video on that, but anyway, yeah. Somewhere between trilogies and standalones are my favorite. Also, I think it depends on the genre. Okay, anyway, I'm not gonna talk about this anymore. Does this include like graphic novels? Because, I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with graphic novels. I suppose I'm gonna say paragraphs, but am I not smart enough to answer these questions? Oh my god. I'm gonna say paragraphs, like just a normal book. That's what I'm gonna go with. So I actually haven't read too many adaptations from movie to book. I can only think of a few, and I don't think I've read any. I would be interested in reading the one from The Prom. That was a musical that they then turned into a movie that is also a book. But I haven't read too many TV movie to book. Holes. Are you kidding me? That movie adaptation was absolutely flawless. I will die on that hill. Thank you. Mistborn, and I know Sanderson is already like working it. He's in the works. He's writing the screenplay for it right now. It needs to be picked up, and I need it. And I need them to cast me in it. I want to be literally anyone. By far. Needs to be a TV series. I want it so bad. Is it a cop-out that I keep saying Sanderson for everything? Because I seriously think Mistborn has the best world building that I've ever truly encountered. I've only read Way of Kings so far in the Stormlight Archive, so I cannot really comment on the world building in that one yet, because I feel like there's so much that Sanderson has not told me yet through the books. But I think Mistborn is like so cool. There are little things that I love about every world and every book, and I don't know if there's one that truly stands out overall that I could like put up next to it. I liked the concept behind Red Queen, and I thought it was done well, but there are one or two things with the way race is portrayed in that book that I'm not sure if I'm qualified to comment on it, but there was something about it that kind of made me go, I'm just not going to comment on it. But I did love the concept behind like having different colored blood. I thought that was really cool. Ooh, honestly, okay, wait, we're gonna take it back for a second. Of Bees and Mist. That world was pretty cool too, with like the little magic thing going on and the mist and the bees and the how it was just kind of all integrated into the world. Now, it's not as complex as a world like Mistborn where we're like in like fantasy, but I will say there was something like creepy and ominous about it that I had yet to really experience in a lot of books that I read. So I'm gonna put that one up there too as a second contender, because it was kind of fascinating. It was kind of like a parallel world where like just some things are a little bit off, and it's like, this is kind of creepy, but like I can't exactly put my finger on what it is. I loved that. I don't know. I haven't thought about a lot of these questions, if if you can imagine. Depends on what I'm in the mood for, I would say, because when I'm reading something older with a classic that has the writing style is a little bit harder to understand, a lot of metaphors, lots of, you know, whatever, that can be really mentally draining. And so sometimes reading something very contemporary, young adult, can be really refreshing because I don't have to think while I'm reading it, and sometimes that's my favorite because reading is supposed to be something I love and enjoy, and if I'm constantly not understanding what's on the page, it can get really aggravating. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's my answer. This is a really hard question. We're gonna go back to Of Bees and Mist. I literally have never heard anyone else talk about this book before, and Salt to the Sea by Ruta. I believe her last name is pronounced Šepetis. She's Lithuanian. She also wrote Between Shades of Grey / what is the movie called? Something Ashes. Basically, Ruta specializes in writing historical fiction based on events that we have forgotten about. So Between Shades of Grey actually reads very, very similarly to The Diary of Anne Frank, where we follow a young Lithuanian girl who is put into the work camps during World War II in Siberia. And it's very painful to get through, but wow, is it really good. And Salt to the Sea actually talks about, I believe this is still World War II, but it's 4 different refugee immigrant characters from 4 different countries. They all speak different languages, they all have different backgrounds, they all have their own secrets, but they are all headed towards the same goal, which is to get on the ship, which I believe is called the Wilhelm Gustloff, which is a famous ship that actually was sunk during World War II. More people died on this ship than died on the Titanic, but we have kind of forgotten about it because I believe they said that the Germans kind of covered it up because they were really embarrassed about it, and all of these people died, not like soldiers and military people, but these refugees and immigrants who were trying to escape the war were all killed on this ship. Except for a select few, but literally, like, we don't even talk about it anymore. But this book was really, really good, and I seriously finished it in like 2 days. Ruta's writing is so phenomenal, and I just love the way that she's able to tell these stories. She has a few other books that I haven't gotten yet, but literally so worth it. Like, go check her out, she's so good. I don't know if I have a book that I like really truly hated, because that I've like finished that a lot of people liked, because if I'm really not liking a book, I'm not afraid to put it down and never touch it again. The last book I truly DNF'd was that Eternal book about the guardian angel who was like sexualizing this 16-year-old that he was guarding. I'm gonna say pass on this one. Okay, I read a lot of those A to Z mysteries, and also the series where it was like vampires don't go to the dentist or something like that. Is that the same thing? I read a lot of those. I read a lot of Goosebumps. I read Among the Hidden was one of my favorite books. I'm gonna go with those for now. Geronimo Stilton, I read. I have like a really hard time remembering what I've read and what I haven't read, like specifically when I was young. And I also went to Catholic school, so like my book selection was not super large. In terms of like little kid books, Dr. Seuss. We read a lot of Dr. Seuss. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can remember right now. There's probably more like hidden in the recesses of my brain, but yeah. Okay, so these are 2 books that I actually read in college for my major. These were both for different classes. So this was one I read when I was a CA or a TA, classroom assistant, teaching assistant, whatever, for Acting 1, my senior year. It's written by Anna Devere Smith. This is not necessarily meant for theater practitioners. This is meant for any artist in the universe, and this is probably like one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. It's basically Anna Devere Smith writing you letters. I believe it's important to be able to trust others, but ultimately you should never find yourself in a position where you trust someone else more than you trust yourself. I love this book. The other one is called The Right to Speak by Patsy Rodenberg, and we read this for my Voice for the Stage class, which is actually all about how to speak for the stage and how to use your voice healthily, constantly. But what she talks about in here is how for women in particular, we are told to be silent, we are told to be small, we are told to be quiet, and how this can actually affect the way that we speak and the way that we produce noise, and how it can be actually unhealthy because of the tension that we carry in our bodies due to this, because we've been told our whole lives to just be quiet and to listen and to let others speak over us. And it has to do with freeing the voice and allowing yourself to speak and allowing yourself to be heard and your thoughts and opinions, and that is why this book is life-changing for me. It was amazing. The Jungle. I literally just cannot read it. It is the most boring thing I've ever read. I had no issue reading books for class except for that one. I just couldn't do it. Sorry, Upton Sinclair, please forgive me. Yes? Classics. Specifically with classic books, because I like to have those on hand. Other than that, not really. I suppose. Yes, I do. I also will give them to my friends, or I will try and there's a used bookstore, not the one that I work at, but there's another used bookstore in town where you can donate or sell your books to them, and they give you store credit, so you get half off the used books there, and I do that too, and I recycle them into the community. I don't really snack too much when I am reading if I can avoid it. I will drink my coffee or hot chocolate though, but I suppose something salty, like chips or pretzels. I sit on my bed with my little back pillow. Natural light if I can, but it gets dark here so early now. I normally have to read by lamplight. The weather is never really nice to read outside, so I suppose I have to stay inside. It's too cold. Or it's like in the summer, it's like really windy. And yeah, so it's just like never really good to read outside here, unless it's like the perfect day. And even then I have issue because like the wind and the, I don't know, inside. Oh, this is hard because if I can avoid breaking it, I will. But if I cannot hold the book without breaking it, I will. I have to, because I have to be able to hold it in my hands. I actually have been trying to. I have a few books in Spanish now that I am attempting to read in Spanish. It's not always the easiest, but being familiar with the story helps. A Vow So Bold and Deadly. I'm excited for that one because I don't know too many other books that are being released. So if you have books that you know are getting released this year and you want me to check them out, please comment them down below because I really want to read more new books. I don't really know what that means. What is a book influencer? Like someone who influences what books you read? I don't know. I'm not really into that, so I'm gonna just say no. Is that what this is? Because then yes. Or if you want to check me out on Instagram, you can find me at emil.y.readsbooks. Personal plug there. Otherwise, welcome. You're here. I'm not always good at tagging people, but I will tag. If you have not already done this tag, I'm so sorry if I'm double tagging you, or if you've already done this, I'm so sorry. But I will tag Catherine Zofrey, Logan at the Buy Book Boy, my friend Dana, and Yasmin, and literally anyone else who wants to do this. Please do this tag. I'm giving you permission to do this tag without being tagged. Do it. Also, Hugo, thank you so much for thinking of me and tagging me. Sending all my love to Belgium, to you and your puppy. And I think that's it. That was 50 questions, and they were hardly rapid fire, but here we are. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you are so very much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming back. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.